My name is Karen, and this is my different kind of medicine story. Niland's a small town of roughly 1,000 people or less. It's located on the north end of the Imperial Valley, which is a large agricultural community and provides much of the produce for the state. It's in between the Salton Sea and Slab City. It's a harsh place to live. Several days in the summer hover around 120 degrees. The poverty, especially at Slab City, is devastating to see. The mass agriculture in the area pollutes the environment from crop dusting and runoff, so the rates of cancer and birth defects and respiratory issues is disproportionate. The community primarily consists of hardworking migrant families, but resources are low, so schools have uncredentialed teachers and the healthcare is very subpar. I remember when I was a kid and they opened a clinic in our town, what a relief it was to not have to drive 20 miles to the doctor. The clinic was a large trailer converted into a doctor's office, and I distinctly remember the ramp to walk in being made of thin plywood, so it was really loud every time you stepped down. During a visit when I was 16, my younger sister, Cheryl, and I both had our blood drawn. The results came back that my younger sister had irregular thyroid levels, but mine were fine. In the weeks following that information, my mom noticed that there was a lump on my throat and insisted on us getting it checked out. Turns out Cheryl's levels were fine, but mine were not. I think the Niland clinic switched the vial labels accidentally. We were referred to medical places in San Diego, which is about 2.5 hours away. We were kind of poor and never had properly running vehicles, so a 2.5 hour drive over the mountain was scary. We broke down so many times with the various trips we made. On really hot days, we'd often have to stop every 20 minutes or so to let the car cool down so it wouldn't overheat. The lump turned out to be a goiter, and so a biopsy was scheduled. I remember being awake but numbed around my neck. They inserted a big needle from about 2 inches below the lump, and I just remember feeling the pressure and something cold running down my neck. I assumed it was just saline. The goiter was so hard it bent the needle, and they were unable to take a sample. I was very scared at longer uncertainty because the test was supposed to give me the answer. When I got dressed after the attempted biopsy, I saw that the cold feeling was blood, and I think that's when it became real for me. The next visit was at a place near Scripps Mercy and was to schedule a thyroid lobectomy to remove the left side where the goiter was located. They told me that they were going to only take out half in case it was benign, then I wouldn't have to be on as much medication, and it's better to have a partially functioning thyroid. I had been raised a Jehovah's Witness, but my mom only followed the parts that were convenient for her or that others could see. During this visit, I remember my mom informed the doctor that we were Jehovah's Witnesses, and should there be a need for a blood transfusion, I would decline. The day after the first surgery, a couple of doctors came in, it's all kind of a blur, and said that unfortunately the removed thyroid contained malignant cells and I had follicular thyroid cancer. I was told it's better than the other kind, medullary, so I should be grateful. I know now that was misinformation. There's actually 4 kinds, and follicular is scarier than medullary from what I've read. They said it's something they usually see in very elderly patients, and they don't even treat it. I don't remember how much of this information came from the doctors or from my parents because I wasn't included in any conversations. I was often in the room, but no one spoke to me. I was 16. I wasn't a child, and I should have been included. This was on a Friday when I was told, and I remember the doctor suggested we schedule the second lobectomy for Monday, but my mom didn't want to wait and pressured them to have it done on Saturday, the following day. I just remember really wanting to have a day or two to let everything settle in because it's a lot to have a major surgery, a cancer diagnosis, and then another major surgery the next day. On Saturday, the hospital was short-staffed when I had my procedure, and they took me to the operating room before I was knocked out. One of the nurses asked me if they could remove the sutures from Thursday before I was put under. I distinctly remember saying no to that. A few weeks after the surgery, I had another scan that showed some residual thyroid tissue, and so I was given radioactive iodine. Between the time I was told that I would have radiation and the actual treatments, my mother really went overboard. She took me to look at wigs, even though there was not a risk of me losing my hair. She had a person from Mary Kay that we knew do my makeup, which made me look like a middle-aged Jehovah's Witness. So much orange. She also made a huge deal about trying to get them to freeze my eggs in case she wanted grandkids one day, despite me not wanting kids and there being no risk of the treatment affecting future fertility. It was exhausting to go around to all these appointments because we lived so far. In hindsight, I would have rather just rested and healed. The radiation treatments were done at Scripps Mercy in Hillcrest, and the process was strange. I was put in a corner room, and the rooms on each side of me were cleared out. The staff that entered wore special badges that changed colors based on how much radiation they had been exposed to. The radioactive iodine was brought in a titanium container with a small straw that I had to drink. It tasted like viscous, dirty water. For the next 24 hours, someone came in periodically and pointed a Geiger meter at me from in the room and from the vacant rooms to see how much radiation was going through the walls. Once my levels were low enough, I was able to go home, but I had to have everyone out of the house for 7 days because the radiation levels could harm them. I really enjoyed that time alone. I had 3 courses of radiation, the last one being much stronger than the others. The radiologist said it would be stronger so it could be the last time, and it was. My taste buds were burned off, and my skin was gray for a few days. I had an intense dream while I was isolated after the 3rd radiation treatment that I can still replay in my mind, of little people in a pod that traveled through my body to fix things, and there was this pulsating golden light that they worked on. And as the dream progressed, the light got smaller and smaller, and then when I woke up, I knew that the treatment had worked. I was a sophomore in high school when this happened, and many people stopped talking to me. I realize now they didn't know what to say, and also so many people in the area had cancer, so it was probably triggering to know another person with cancer. At the time, I was also expected to work in my parents' tow company, so I could not attend school full-time. My mom made me petition the school board for half days so I could work, but tell them I was sick and needed to rest. I've now been in remission for 23 years. There's a theme in my family where the person actually experiencing something is treated as if they're too fragile to handle it, and so everyone else thinks that they're carrying the burden and knows the best course of action. The decision of the person actually experiencing the thing isn't considered. If you push back on this overbearing form of help, you're then resented for being ungrateful or thinking you're too good. I'm realizing through this project that by so many lies and incorrect information, whether it was people trying to shield me from it being too much to handle or just terrible health care or shitty parents, I've kind of minimized what a huge impact it's had on my life. From not trusting healthcare professionals to minimizing that I have a chronic condition, to not always taking my thyroid medication when I was younger, to not feeling like I have any say or that I'll be believed, or feeling like every time I get sick, it's something I did wrong and I'm a burden. By everyone pretending it wasn't a big deal, I didn't give it the weight it deserves. And now I can't go into an exam room without crying. But there were good things from it too. At the time, I was drinking a lot in high school, and that made me stop. I also didn't have a bug bite for 23 years after the radiation. What I would want people to know is don't stop talking to someone just because they're sick. Listen to the patient. And there's a million little interactions that happen when a person is sick, and you never know which one will stick with them. So try to be kind as much as possible. We often see someone as an individual, and we forget that they're part of a family system that might be dysfunctional or adding extra stress to the situation. So give people grace. Now my life is full of self-care and empathy and independence, and this experience shaped many of my decisions, from being vegan to studying happiness. I'm still healing, and now I get to help others heal too.